Jack Fleming here. Let's create a car portrait. Alright, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you the process that I go through whenever I create a portrait of one of my customers' cars. This is going to be done using ink and watercolor. Our final piece of artwork will be on bristle paper. However, I like to get started on some regular drawing paper for doing all my pencil work. Save my bristle paper for last, that way I can keep it nice and clean. Use it for only my inks and my watercolors. Before we get going too far here, it's always a good idea to get a clean piece of paper to keep underneath your hand so that you can keep your working surface a little bit more smudge free. Let's keep on drawing. After I get the rough idea down of what I want my wheels to look like doing them freehand, I like to come back and clean them up with some ellipses. That way I can get the shapes just a little bit more refined. If you're not familiar with this tool, they're used in architecture, or draftsmen and stuff use them. Used to be able to find them in places, office supply stores. I have not seen them there or in art supply stores in a long time. I got mine off of Amazon. Like most things, I can't seem to find around in stores anymore. One good tip that I can give you guys in getting started is always start off really light and loose. I try to work with finding my big shapes first and finding the perspective I want, and then getting darker later. I really try to save the time for getting darker whenever I've finally figured out all the little shapes and everything, and I've kind of got an idea of my details, and that's where the dark parts come in. The stuff that you know is going to stay in the end. If you go too dark too fast, it's hard to fix your mistakes. I wanted to show you all what I'm doing here real quick whenever I'm doing these watercolor drawings. I have several references that my customer sent me, and I've printed them out small. I'm kind of using those to work from. And I really like the angle in this one right here. However, the lighting I don't really care for. It loses a lot of detail. It's really hard to make out some of the parts of this car that really make it stand out. If you look, they have a pretty ornate kind of cap up here. They've got a really cool, really detailed hood ornament up here made on the radiator cap. And it doesn't show up in this, so I've taken and blown up some of the stuff from these other photos so I can kind of see that cap that's there. It looks like a cowboy skull. And then we've also got this kind of horse skull thing here. So whenever I'm drawing, I'm using these references. Really like that angle, so I'm pretty much copying that angle on this, but I'm using all these other ones in order to get my details, figure out where things are, what's specific to this car. One thing that I notice as I'm going through these is sometimes, cars evolve. This one doesn't have that cap right there through this picture. I don't have that, but I can pull it off of this one here. There's other little things, looks like they've changed out maybe the headers on it and some other stuff. So I'm able to pick up what looks like the most recent stuff, but still get that cool angle from that other one. Using my paper here underneath my hand as much as I remember to, so that I can keep from dirtying up my drawing too much. You've probably seen me use a couple of tools. Not specifically this one, but sometimes I use some ellipses. Try and help get my wheels a little bit more round, a little closer to perfect. I don't necessarily want it to look perfect. This is still just a rough drawing. Once I get it all figured out, I'm going to end up putting a nice sheet of paper over it and use my tracing table here to come through and bring my drawing onto the new paper nice and clean. Almost done with our pencils here. Last steps. Alright, I have my drawing pretty much roughed out here and ready for the next part. The next part is getting my bristle paper, make sure that it's clean, and I'm going to go ahead and line that up on top of this And I wanted to show you a little trick. That's why I'm doing this. I'm going to take a piece of tape. I'm going to make what's called a T-hinge. So this other paper is larger. That's the one that I sketched it all out on. Did some thumbnails before. Oh, really quick. I didn't like the way the shadows were going in my reference picture. Everything's so dark. I wanted it to be a little bit lighter. A little bit more like this other reference picture that I've got. So I changed the direction of my shadows, elongated them a little bit, so I'm kind of going to be making up my own light source here. Based off of references still, but not really copying. So I take my tape and I'm facing it sticky side up. That way, if it damages my paper at all whenever I take it off, it only damages the back. I'll line that up with my guidelines that I drew out. Make sure we're square. And now I'm putting a piece of tape sticky side down over the top of that and only on my guide paper. I'm going to be getting rid of this extra piece of tape up here in a little bit. That way my paper can move around. So if I've got to match it to a better angle for my hand, maybe drawing a curve or something, it's easy to move my paper. It's one thing when I used to teach art. See a lot of kids that wouldn't move their paper around. Drawings looked all stiff and they had a hard time getting the angles they want. When you're drawing, man, I flip my paper in every direction that I need to in order to get the right angle. So you'll see that as we get going with the inking process here. Go ahead and hold that there. You know, I think I've talked enough here, so let's just get to inking for a little while. Be back to y'all whenever it's time for watercolors. Alright, now that we've got the basic outlines and stuff inked, it's time to peel the back drawing off. Go ahead and add some weight to these lines. Now that my inks are pretty much done, I'm going to make a paper mask that I'm going to use a little bit later on in the watercoloring process. Let's go ahead and get started with our watercolors here. I'm using a small little set of cake watercolors that I have. I believe they're also made by the same people who make the Micron pens. Sakura is the brand. I know it all happened pretty fast there, you might have missed it, but I used that paper mask that I made to cover up the drawing part, the parts that I didn't want to get messy whenever I was working on my background there. Started my background by doing some washes with just a few different colors, and then I always like to kind of splatter with a toothbrush a little bit of, I don't know, sort of a speckling kind of thing. I think it kind of helps with that depth back there. That's why that mask is important. Kind of wish that I hadn't recorded the watercolor part here in high speed like that. It'd be kind of fun to go over a few more things with y'all, but I guess we'll probably have to save that for another video. This is the end of this drawing. I kind of flew through it there a little bit. Please let me know if you guys would like to see more content like this. Maybe go a little bit more in detail on certain aspects of this. Let me know what you'd like. I thought it might be kind of neat to share with you guys something that I do that's a big part of my business here. Or if you yourself would like to have me do a portrait of your car, let me know. I have a spot on my website that is how you can get in touch with me. Kind of has some pricing and stuff on that. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you, if you're into art and you're here for that, that you're learning a few things that you can pick up and use on your own stuff. And if you're here for the cars, hope you like seeing this one. It's a pretty neat little car. See it at a lot of shows, north part of Texas here. Got the guy's dog in his car there for him. All right, y'all have a good day. Bye.